there was cannons. The texture setup was great, but it lost a few seconds over just running at the wall and praying. So, Aki decided that he needed to give up the consistency of the setup and go back to normal cannonless. This same awful, brutal trick that killed 2/3 of all runs years prior. This was obviously a really tough move, but the run was getting so optimized that it was worth it. Second, Aki went for a faster setup for pillarless. Developed by Tama, you would do the jump dive on the hill instead of going over the top. This enabled you to get hands-free quicker and allow the trick to begin sooner than before. With these setups in mind, Aki kept doing attempts. On May 10th, the new time saves helped him be 6 seconds ahead of the record early. He would bleed some of this time in fibers, but good BLJs kept him well ahead. 3 Bowser throws later, Aki had done it again. Incredibly, this record put Aki 12 seconds ahead of anyone else on the leaderboard. And he didn't stop there. He kept doing attempts for a lower record. He even had paces multiple seconds ahead of 1504, but every time, something would kill it. But in late 2019, Aki would finally get some competition at the top of the leaderboard. And this particular runner certainly had credentials. He was both a 0-star and 1-star record holder. He was one of the best in the world at optimizing fast movements. And his name was Dowski. Dowski had previously held the 16-star record before, getting a 15-16 the day before Aki got his incredible 1508. However, this time he wanted something more, a record that would last for a while. Even though his personal best was a few seconds behind Aki, he knew he had the skill to keep up with him. So, Dowski's record attempts began, and on November 17th, he got on a run that fell behind early thanks to missing cannons on the first try. However, he more than made up that time with a faster fire seat, including a different strategy at the end where he avoided jumping on the edge of the stage. He had a 4-second lead over the other. This actually had sub-15 potential, but as always, the BLJs stood in the way. They weren't great, but his best possible time was still 1 second ahead of the record. If he could tear through the stage, he'd have a chance.
I don't think I got it.
As it turns out, he would be record by just over a tenth of a second. For the first time in a year, Aki was no longer the record holder. With so many times being set in short succession, 16-star as a category was flourishing. There was really only one problem. At this point, it had been almost 2 years since someone with a funny username had set a record. In recent months, there had been Aki and Dowski, but to get a good one, you had to go back to Luigi in his 1517, and even that one's not amazing compared to the likes of 420 Blaze It and Shivering Erotic King Banana. Well, in early 2020, someone wanted to rectify that. He started moving up on the leaderboards, going from 5th to 3rd place right behind the two 1504s, and shortly thereafter, he would end up taking the top spot. And the runner's name certainly didn't disappoint. On February 27th, a 1503 was achieved by Slippery. He gained time early thanks to a faster LVLJ, and managed to match Dowski's speed in making the Tsukishima cycle on the platforms. In Womp's Fortress, he gained time by hitting Cannonless first try, partially thanks to a setup by Salt and Ginger to adjust the camera and clip in the wall more consistently. He maintained this 4-second lead until the second MIPS clip, which took him 2 tries, but gained about a second back on the LJs. That worked out to a 15:03, just ahead of Dowski and enough to make Slippery Nip the new record holder. The community was beginning to approach a barrier. We were now just 4 seconds away from a sub-15-minute run. The last time a minute barrier had been broken was almost 9 years prior, with Akira's 15:54. Now, a run in the 14s was seeming inevitable. But what time saves were left? Well, looking at the 15:03 record, the big potential time saves was a 4 seconds lost due to the MIPS clip, and a few seconds that could be saved on the BLJs. But beyond that, there were still fractions of a second to squeeze out all over. On LVLJ, Lethal Lava Land, Bowser in the Sky, all from subtle, faster strategies or improving movement. Those time saves all added up to a run well under 15 minutes. But someone still had the tape there. And one player who would make a big push was Aki. After getting a 15:03 of his own, Aki would get a very promising run going on May 1st, 2020. It was about even going into the MIPS clips, where he messed up the first one instead of the second one. Still, a strong Fire C and BLJs kept him just ahead going into Bowser in the Sky. And there, he was able to make a faster elevator cycle called Monamo Cycle by making his movement as tight as possible, including an incredible triple jump dive onto the platform. 3 throws later, Aki was so close to a sub 15. One more second to go. Aki pushed onward over the coming days and weeks, getting great runs on pace that eventually died to something. The biggest culprit, of course, were the BLJs. Getting Mario to catch on the stairs seemed almost random at times. If you didn't get him to catch within a few jumps, it was run over, and even making it through would usually result in losing time. But Aki knew sub 15 was within reach. He just needed one good run past the BLJs. And on May 10th, 2020, Aki had this run. It was about as close to a perfect run as you could get. Chances like this don't come along very often. Now, more than ever, the BLJs needed to happen. They didn't need to be very good, he just needed something decent. Or he could get near perfect BLJs. This was his chance for the run of a lifetime. Here we go.
You got it!
By the skin of his teeth, Aki had pulled out a 14:59, the world's first sub 15. Obviously, as good as it was, this run still had some room for improvement. He lost 6 seconds on the last split for mistakes in Bowser in the Sky. But still, that was it for big time bosses. It was an incredible run up until then, and it was daunting to try and beat. For the next several months, there was little action at the top of the leaderboard. The top 3 stayed in the same spots, and 2021 came around with just Aki in the elusive sub-15 club. See this guy down here? This is Kano, and he was 6th place in the world with a 15-17. He was considered an elite runner of the game, but generally not considered a world record contender. 18 seconds was a lot of difference for a short category like 16 star, and there were several people between him and the top spot. Well, in February 2021, Kano started up a stream on Twitch, and he decided that he wasn't going to end this stream until he set a 16-star world record. He wasn't going to be playing all the time. He'd still live his life and sleep on a normal schedule, but his stream would stay live the entire time. He knew he'd have to do some work given how far he was from there, but Kano didn't care. He wanted to be the record holder. So, he got to work. Life went on, and Kano kept streaming 16 star. By March, his time was down to 15:13. By April, it was 15:07. His stream kept going. He was improving his skills and getting close to a record level. By May, he was starting to get really close, entering the top 3 with a 15:03. All the while, the length of the stream climbed higher and higher, going past 1,000 and then past 2,000 hours. Until finally, on June 12th, 2021, Kano had this run. He actually gained some time early thanks to a new strategy in shifting Sandland by Circle Mark 994, but lost a bit on